Hello everyone, it's David from Automotive Press. I've got two very important and very fascinating cars for comparison today, which is the all-new Toyota Corolla Cross in the hybrid format and also the all-new Subaru Crosstrek. But right off the bat, I'm going to do something different, which is something I haven't done before in front of a camera, which is to do my NVH or noise, vibration, and harshness test using a cup of water. No, this isn't a drink for the afternoon, but instead, I'm going to put this cup with the water in on top of the hood on both the Corolla Cross and the Crosstrek and measure how good the engine is at idle in terms of vibration. And on top of that, of course, I'll do my regular quality audit from engineer's perspective by measuring gaps and so forth, and then we'll take it for a drive and tell you which of these cars is the one you should buy. Let's go. So first, the Corolla Cross, and I've got a cup of water here filled it with 3/4 of water. And what I'm doing is trying to look for the ripple effect on the water. This is a very interesting but simple way to check for noise and vibration. I can also put my hand on the hood. And on the Corolla Cross right now, I step on the gas to get the engine to start up. So it's not in hybrid electric mode right now, but it's very smooth. You can tell there's almost no ripple in terms of the vibration. And the whole thing feels really smooth and absolutely quiet. Now let's take a look at the Subaru Crosstrek. So now I'm checking the Crosstrek in terms of noise, vibration, and harshness at idle. And keep in mind that this one has a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine, and Corolla Cross comes in both the gasoline version and hybrid version. And as I mentioned, the Crosstrek only comes in gasoline version. And the cheaper model or lower entry level model comes with a 2-liter gas engine as well. But as you can tell, it's a little bit rougher running in terms of the engine. You can tell the water is rippling quite a bit, and you can feel it with hand as well. So at idle at least, the engine is a little bit rougher than the Corolla Cross, and you won't feel as much of that inside the vehicle because obviously the sound deadening kind of mitigates all of the impact. But at least on the surface, right here on the hood level, the Crosstrek runs a little bit rougher. So I hope you liked the water test in terms of vibration analysis. But let's take a look at the my usual engineer's check on the panel fit and alignment. I'm going to measure the gap, which is pretty good on the Corolla Cross. It's 3.2 millimeter there, 3.2. Although there's a little bit of a curvature here, but looks really good between the front fender and the front door. It's 3.7, a little bit wider at 4, and also 3.9 millimeter. It's basically the same on the other side. I did check that earlier. Let's compare that to the Crosstrek here. Again, this one's built in Japan, this one's built in the US, but right now the quality looks actually about the same. In fact, it's a little bit better on the Corolla Cross. This one is 4 millimeter here, also 3.9, and then 3.9, 4 millimeter, and 3.9. So actually the panel gaps are about the same, a little bit better on the Corolla Cross. Again, this is built in the Mazda-Toyota joint venture plant. And then in terms of the actual alignment of the panels, how things line up, they're both excellent. I don't expect anything short of perfection between these two manufacturers. They're both really known for good quality overall. And the paint job looks really good as well. I feel like there's a little bit more gloss on the Subaru Crosstrek, but that's hard to tell because obviously it's going to be based on how the car was finished and being prepped for us to drive. So let's do a quick paint check in terms of thickness and see if there's much difference. Let's take a look at one on the Corolla Cross first. It's 73 microns. You want the thickness to be between kind of 90 microns to 120 microns. So I'm a little bit surprised by that, but that's okay. Sometimes they have a thinner paint for aluminum paint finish. This is 118, so obviously thicker over there. And the 81 microns on the front door, 81 again on the rear door. What about the Crosstrek? Let's take a look at the hood first. 87, but what about the front fender? 93, 93 or 94 I should say, 90.5, and on the roof 90.7. So actually both are about the same, ranging from between kind of 80-ish to 90-something. So a little bit thinner than I would like to see. I like to see the paint kind of over 100 microns to have that durability. But lately, the modern technology is such that they can have a thinner paint and still have a good durability. So I did notice that more and more vehicles are ranging between 85 to 95 microns, and so I think that's pretty well normal, and the two are about the same in terms of paint quality. But yes, it's a little bit thicker on the Crosstrek, and you can see that because the actual clear coat looks a little bit deeper on this model. Otherwise, I consider the exterior quality to be about the same between the two. Now let's take a look at the inside. So now that we had a chance to review the exterior quality, let's take a look inside. So first I'm inside the Corolla Cross, and this is the hybrid version, but obviously the interior is the same as the non-hybrid version as well. But as you can tell, it's kind of back to basic design when it comes to Toyota's philosophy for interior fit and finish and design. But that's okay, because as long as everything works, it's functional, and it's well made and well manufactured, I have no complaints. So first of all, let's take a look at the material fit and finish. I do my usual punch test to make sure that everything looks good, that nothing is out of order. So everything is okay in terms of selection material. I do, however, wish that Toyota had a little bit more of a softer materials, like this is a hard plastic, and so kind of adds to the overall, cheapness of the look and feel. But in terms of the quality, is totally fine. It's what you expect from Toyota anyway. And even though it's built at the Mazda Toyota joint venture plant, I would expect the quality to be just as good as any other manufacturing plant within Toyota. So this is not a real stitching, this is a fake one, but you can tell all the pieces fit well. There's nothing out of place, all the trims line up, the plastic pieces look good, and I'm thankful that we have an actual volume control for audio and temperature control for the HVAC system here. So the buttons are here and so forth, including one for heated steering and also heated seats. So I'm really glad that they did not take away the buttons and put it into infotainment system like you see in most electric cars. This is the way cars should be designed, with the proper buttons and controls that we can actually use our hands to manage temperatures and audios and so forth. Simple shifter here and simple cup holder, a little bit recessed back for my taste, and a very small center console, so that's one complaint as well. But the seats are very comfortable. This is a mid-level version, not the base model, but not the top of the line. And so the seats are actually pretty comfortable. This is a cloth seat. Now let's take a look at the back seat as well. So now I'm in the back of the Corolla Cross, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky here, because it is a very comfortable, practical, and a functional SUV or crossover. But the back seat can be a little bit tight for some people. I'm not a tall person by any means, and I do sit reasonably comfortable here, but you know what, the legroom can be better. So if I were to compare between this one and the Subaru Crosstrek, I'll give you some numbers. Interesting enough, the two are almost identical in terms of exterior dimension. I'm just looking through my cheat notes here, because the Subaru is 176.4 inches long and the Corolla Cross is 176.1 inches. So almost same. The width is almost same as well, although the Corolla Cross is 1 inch wider than the Crosstrek, and the height is also a little bit higher on the Corolla Cross compared to Subaru Crosstrek. And that makes sense because Subaru has a sloping roof line, so it's about an inch and a half or so difference in terms of height. So what does that all mean? Well, in terms of the front room and the back room, it's quite interesting. The front headroom and legroom are about the same. Both have a front headroom of just shy of 40 inches. And the front legroom is identical at 42.9. But here in the back seat, the Corolla Cross has a legroom of 32 inches, which is acceptable, but not great, versus the Crosstrek, which has 36.5 inches. So 4.5 inches more legroom in the Crosstrek, which might surprise you a little bit because it's not much of a bigger vehicle. And also the Corolla Cross have slightly less shoulder room as well, just an inch or inch and a half difference between here and the Crosstrek. So overall, you get a little bit more legroom in the Crosstrek, but slightly less headroom in the Crosstrek, exactly 1 inch less to be specific. So you have to kind of decide what's important for you. If you want a little bit more legroom, go with the Crosstrek. But if you want a little bit more headroom, then you go with the Corolla Cross. So I've now hopped over to the Crosstrek, and you know what? It does feel a little bit more airy here. But more than that, there's a difference in technology. Well, that one, of course, is not the top of the line. But even so, the Crosstrek does have a slightly larger and I think more functional interface. And we still get physical volume and physical control for the audio. And even the temperature can be adjusted with this button here. So I'm really glad that once again, we have some buttons, and I really do like the screen setup on the Subaru better than the Crosstrek. But let me come back to the quality check. That's what I'm supposed to do first. So I do my usual punch test on this one as well. And I feel like because the Crosstrek has more softer materials, the overall quality looks better. It's not that it's actually physically better in terms of things like squeaks and rattles and noise, vibrations, and harshness, but it looks like a higher quality material. And that's mainly because of the type of design they chose to do, with interesting patterns of carbon fiber look here, as well as soft cloth here, mixed in with stitching here. So it does look more of an upscale model compared to the Corolla Cross, even though the two are almost identically priced, depending on which model you pick, obviously. So what else can I point out? Well, the shifter is also traditional shifter, which I'm happy with. You get a bit of a glossy black trim here. The cup holders are also a little bit faced backward here, which I'm not too crazy about, but it's nice and big. And most of all, the center console is way bigger than the Corolla Cross. So overall, the interior design, I think, is better in the Crosstrek here. And just in terms of look and feel, I think the Crosstrek is definitely a little bit more desirable compared to the Corolla Cross. Now let's take a look at the back seat. So now I'm in the back of the Crosstrek, and as the numbers show earlier, it does have a little bit more legroom. You can see that, just a couple more inches. I do sit a little bit more upright in terms of the back seat here, and the headroom is in fact a little bit less than the Corolla Cross, 1 inch to be exact, because of the sloping roofline. But otherwise, the seat comfort is similar between the two. I think you do get a little bit more legroom, so that's the plus. You get a bit more shoulder room, as I mentioned, also in the Corolla Cross, mainly because the wheelbase is a little bit longer in the Crosstrek, so that allows the interior compartment to be a little bit larger. But in terms of practical sense, just sitting between the two cars, to be honest, there's not much difference. The two are about the same, and therefore you're going to have to sit in both vehicles to figure out which is right for you. Once again, I think the interior design of the Crosstrek is better than the Corolla, but that one does have a little bit more headroom, and so if you're a tall person, you might want to pick the Corolla Cross. If you're more picky about the interior design, you might want to pick the Crosstrek. So first, I'm going to drive the Corolla Cross Hybrid, and keep in mind this is the hybrid version, a little bit different from the Subaru Crosstrek, which is gasoline only. You can get Corolla Cross in the gasoline version only as well, which is a review I already did in the past. You might want to take a look at that. But this is basically everything you expect from a Toyota small compact SUV. It's comfortable, refined, very predictable, easy to drive, and in this particular version with the hybrid, actually pretty peppy as well. No problem zipping in and out of traffic in busy traffic, and because it's not quite as big as a RAV4, it's also very easy to handle and manage in places like Vancouver, where we have very tight parking space. On the other hand, keep in mind that you don't get a lot of steering feel on this Corolla Cross. You do get reasonably predictable handling and actually quite flat around the corners, but there isn't that much feedback because the steering is a little bit light and a bit numb, and I wish that they built in a little bit more steering feel for that reason. From that perspective, the Crosstrek is a little bit sportier, more fun to drive, and I'll talk about that a little bit more once I hop into that version. And then you'll have to kind of test drive both vehicles back to back to decide which one is the right one for you. But anyone who's ever purchased any kind of Toyota vehicles in the past will feel right at home with a Corolla crossover, just because it's exactly what you expect Toyota to offer, which is quiet, predictable, refined feel, and a very easy car to drive, and the passengers will also find it to be very comfortable. Now let's hop into the Subaru Crosstrek for comparison. Okay, so now I hopped into the Crosstrek and for comparison in terms of driving feel, and I would say this is where the biggest difference might be between the Corolla Cross and the Crosstrek, because the two are very similar on paper, but they drive quite differently on the road. The Crosstrek carries some of the traits from the WRX series, and therefore it has a little bit better steering feel. I think the feedback from the road and also the weight of the steering is a little bit better on the Crosstrek. It is still not a sporty vehicle by any means, but it does feel a bit more fun to drive. Mainly because you get a better road feel. When you drive the Corolla Cross, it is very smooth and pretty refined, but it's devoid of all feeling in terms of steering feedback, and it's quite numb. So I wish that they built in a little bit more feel, but you know what? Most Toyota vehicles are pretty numb in terms of the steering feel, and yet people keep buying them. So They obviously know the formula that people like, and so no one seems to mind. But for me, who really enjoy driving, I definitely want a bit more feel when I drive. Also, this car is a little bit sportier overall in terms of suspension feel and the way it corners around the twisty turn as well, because it also sets a little bit lower. So there's no question that for me anyway, in terms of pure driving feel, I would prefer the Crosstrek over the Corolla Cross. But some of you who don't care about that so much and you want the maximum comfort and refinement and smoothness, you might actually like the Corolla Cross better. So it's an interesting comparison to think about, and you'll have to drive both of them back to back to decide what's right for you. And in terms of powertrain, there's not a huge difference in terms of overall feel, but keep in mind that the Corolla Cross that I'm driving this week is the hybrid version. So the engine and the electric motor works together to give you a little bit more of a torquey feel when you drive, and obviously a little bit quieter feel at lower speed when the electric motor is engaged. Compared to the Crosstrek, which is only gasoline version, and therefore it's a little bit noisier, and the engine is also a little bit rougher compared to the Corolla Cross as we showed you earlier. So those are some of the differences to think about. But as an overall conclusion, what do I think? Well, the Crosstrek has a little bit more of an interesting character because it's got a little bit more of an outdoor design. It has a really good reputation and a very good resale value. And even though it doesn't have a hybrid version, overall it's more fun to drive and give you a little bit more legroom in the rear, and I think a better overall interior design. So I'm intrigued by the Subaru Crosstrek, and I'm going to have to say that I would probably buy this over the Corolla Cross hybrid, given the choice, at least for me anyway. But for many of you guys, you will probably want to pick the Corolla Cross because it is available in the hybrid and it has the Corolla name, and therefore it's going to have a really good resale value as well. And it's a little bit more practical in terms of the headroom and also the trunk space. So if you want to maximize value and maximize long-term reliability, you might want to pick the Corolla Cross. So those are some of the differences between the two, and I'm kind of curious to know which one you like better, both in terms of exterior, interior design, drivability, quality, and resale value. Those are all the factors that you have to take into account. So let me know in the comments below which one you like better. And if you haven't done so yet, would you kindly subscribe as well? And maybe give me a thumbs up if you like this video, because I plan to do more of this type of video in the future where I compare the two similar priced vehicles. Anyhow, for now I'm going to sign off, and until next time, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.